Hello and welcome to the Popcorn Hangover. Today we're going to be discussing Morbius and how not to establish a cinematic universe. My name is Alex, and today I am joined by the one and only
Graham.
Welcome to the show, Graham. So we saw Morbius today.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
My initial thoughts going into it were, I did not have high expectations. I did months ago, seeing the trailers, I was so excited for this movie.
You were so excited.
Just because it's I don't know. I really thought it was gonna have more of they were gonna do better than Venom kind of an idea. It was just gonna be its own thing, but not, it. Yeah, no, it was terrible. Yeah, which I didn't see it when it first came out, so I got the reviews and got all the understanding, which I kind of got months ago too. But it was, yeah, it was not. It was terrible. It
was less than perfect.
It was awful
by a lot.
By very much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw it by myself the first time on opening night, and afterwards, I always like to go read reviews. And so it came out April 1st, and the amount of 5-star reviews it had, and this is the second coming of Christ, and this is the greatest movie of all time.
Talk about April Fools.
It coming out on April 1st probably helped it in terms of the reviews.
I can understand that.
No, it was even just from the opening, the opening title sequence. Being all
so
neon,
weird.
80s,
yeah.
It looked like it was made by
it felt like a Stranger Things, like a TV show, entrance, or just
it looked like an intro to graphic design student made it,
or that's the ad that they roll,
it just didn't. It was not it did not set the vibe at all for the movie.
No.
I feel like they were going for a sort of horror thing. I guess overall, I think that was. That's how I would hope they would want to do a Morbius movie. They did. They failed at that. I don't know. The one scene that I think was really good, despite the fact that it didn't make a whole lot of sense, was the scene in the hallway where the nurse dies and all the lights were on off. That was cool. That was a cool effect.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, there was a jump scare. I jumped a little bit. It was out of nowhere. But my question though is, why do you have lights that turn on one light at a time?
Yeah.
When there's a switch that turns them all on? I didn't
the only thing I was literally while I was watching this, not even focused on the movie whatsoever. She's walking, the lights off, lights on, lights off, lights on. And I'm maybe during peak point of the day, there's so many people walking through the hallway that all the lights are just on. There's always motion. So sure, it makes sense. And then when there's not, it would die down. It saves money. It's saves money. That's a smart move. One, I don't know why I was thinking that. Two, this is literally a movie. So what the hell? But also that made no sense.
Because then she went and turned on all the lights, and I was
there's one main master.
If you're still hanging out there, I feel like you should have the lights on.
Have all the lights on. Yeah.
Or I don't know.
And then it wasn't like that. Also how was it that dead and empty? And then just a little after, everyone's that hallway's busy, man. It's trucking, people walking back and forth. They're
I think that happened at night, and then everyone being there was
just
during
the morning
the
after
next day.
Next day. Okay.
I think that's this movie's biggest issue is continuity does not exist.
It was never there.
I feel like there wasn't really a script. They just had bullet points, and then they said, "Okay, here's what we're shooting today."
As long as we do this,
Jared Leto, Matt Smith, improv for a little bit, and it was just whatever they came up with.
Yeah.
And even there were all the little plot points were just all over the place. I couldn't tell what the story was. Matt Smith, I don't know what his motivation was. I can't tell. You know what? Let's back up.
Okay.
Let's just start from the beginning, and we can just tear this movie apart.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is them trying to set up their Spider-Verse.
Right.
And we have Into the Spider-Verse, which I think is
one of the greatest.
If not the greatest Spider-Man movies ever. We have No Way Home, which if you don't think Into the Spider-Verse is the greatest, you think No Way Home is, and vice versa. Those are the top two.
Understandable.
It's been successfully done a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And Sony is just they are dropping the ball on every aspect. And so I feel like Morbius was supposed to be Venom is their Iron Man, and I feel like Morbius is supposed to be
a Captain America,
Thor kind of thing.
Yeah. One of the big three.
Yes, and it's for starters, that is an awful decision. Like Morbius isn't even really.
He's not even like a Sinister Six. Like he's not even.
Well, he's not even like a real. He's a villain because comic books have to have like a monster or villain of the week. But really, like in every issue that like every story that Morbius appears in, it's always he either like Spider-Man like sees, oh hey, there's like vampires, I can go stop them, and then he like ends up attacking Morbius, and Morbius gets mad, and then they fight. Yeah. Or like it's a situation where Morbius just loses control, and then Spider-Man stops him, and then Morbius is like, oh thanks, dude, like I'm gonna go back to being
like chill now.
Being a doctor. Yeah. Like, and I feel like they could have made a really great Morbius movie, and I think we can maybe touch on that a little later. Because I think there are signs, like there are like story elements and things that I was intrigued by. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I noticed throughout was, there's a common saying in filmmaking that you want to show and not tell, right? Like you don't need to tell me every little thing that's happening. Like show me the emotions or show me things that are happening.
If you have to explain it, you're doing it wrong.
To an extent, but the problem here is that they told me all the interesting things. Like they told me about how the bat serum stuff was working, and they told me how Morbius was feeling. He just said, oh, like I'm a monster. And that was it. Like that could have been such a cool movie if we explored, like, is this a blessing or is this a curse? Or is it, I think the quote going into it was like a cure or a curse. Yeah. Like that was a really interesting concept, but instead they just immediately said it's a curse. Yeah. Which like give us some tension, like let the audience, like that's stuff that you show and that you play with. Yeah. And then instead they decided to show stuff that I just did not care for, or stuff I had seen a million times before. Like the slow-mo, I feel like Zack Snyder was involved in this project somehow.
Oh my gosh. It was every other, if someone throws a punch, there it is. Someone shoots a gun, there it is. Like it was
literally just like jumping in the air. Like nothing's happening. He's just like power shot. Like,
yeah. Also their power, I mean, it was something else.
Well, let's talk about the effects. Cause I feel like the effects were extremely distracting.
Terrible.
If you had told me that this movie, like if they locked their final cut in like 2 hours before it released, I would believe you. Yeah. Because it was just, it looked terrible. Yeah. Even like...
And they had so much time on this too.
They had COVID. Like you would think that with COVID, like it was delayed like, over a year? Mm-hmm. And then after No Way Home, it was delayed again like a couple more months. Like they had time to like fix this edit and like try to do something. Even looking at the trailers, like... half of the stuff in the trailers, the most interesting parts of the trailers, mind you, aren't even in this movie.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah,
I don't know what was happening behind the scenes that like,
or just like what decision was made to pull those or like change it up,
right? Yeah, because Vulture in those like trailers like makes some interesting points and has some, and then instead like we'll get to the post credits later. I feel like I don't even know where to start. There's just so much. Yeah. So. Let's talk effects because they were extremely distracting. Like do you have any sort of explanation for the weird like wispy stuff?
Honestly,
all the time?
The only thing I could think of was like a spider sense kind of feeling. Because what made me think of that initially was like when he's using the echolocation. Mm-hmm. I genuinely could not tell. Were those like hairs on his ear, or was that just some like literal, just like visual, like he can hear.
And why did his eyes change?
Yeah, his eyes would like squint out. Like it was honestly like it kind of made sense because I've been like bats are blind. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's the main use for it. So it's like, oh, like dude, you have this echolocation power. You can do this dope thing. You got to go blind for a quick second though, real quick. But it's fine. It will help you, and then you'll get your vision right back. Like,
and I mean that's an example of show not tell, right? Is like I mean you have to have some sort of like visual, and that was fine. But my thing is, so like you have the wispy stuff going on, and when I first thought about it, I was like, maybe it's like a weird like vampire sense. But here's the issue. It's on the cameras. When he's looking at the cameras on the ship, like it shows the wispy stuff on him. Or like or when he's like throwing like the ball. Like the ball has the wispy stuff. Has its
own red trail.
Why? Yeah. It looked weird. It was distracting. Or like there's like the subway scene, like it was like on and off, like I would say it's like when they're using like their powers or whatever, but like
and that's what
during
I thought
that scene, like they would be crawling around and it would be on, but then they'd be running and it would turn off all of a sudden, which I feel like for a bunch of people who don't know, who haven't been able to walk or run their entire lives, I feel like that should be a superpower.
A little harder than it. Well, yeah.
Like,
I thought it was more of like you saw it from like their perspective. So yeah, everything's got like the weird look. It's got the ripple effect, kind of like wavy, like stringy style to it. But like, yeah, it showed on the cameras. Like anytime he jumped or like, which I thought it almost like the old X-Men, I don't know which one it was, has Nightcrawler in it. And every time he like teleports, it's got like the little how like
he has the
that's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. I thought he was literally like every time he'd like hit a guy and like go to the next guy. I didn't think it was super speed. It literally looked like man was like
that's what they had the slow motion, so you could
actually see him. Goodness, I guess, man.
No, I feel like slow motion can be a cool tool. Like if they did like the first time when they shot the bullet, and he like it was slow motion dodging, like that's cool. Just to show the speed,
him understanding and like realizing what he can do. Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. Bullet time is cool. The Matrix did it, and it's like the greatest action movie of all time. So like it works, but
not every time a gun was shot is what
just for every little thing. It was just, I don't know, so distracting. And I don't know if you noticed this. I thought Matt Smith's vampire look was fine, but Morbius is just, I felt like he had 6 different faces.
Yeah. It was so, I feel like overly detailed, not even like overly detailed, but it was just like, I feel like they tried to make it so aggressive. And he could almost like...
At times it almost looked like a really bad prosthetic. Like they had like added like 6 layers to his face or something.
Yeah.
It was... I'm not going to say that this would have fixed the movie, but I feel like the VFX like were just so distracting the entire time.
I think that could have made it better. I wouldn't say it necessarily made the movie worse.
I mean, it would have made the movie more visually appealing.
Right. Which would have been an up for this movie.
Because, I mean, yeah, even like just... from a cinematography and coloring perspective, it was very boring. It just seemed
overloaded too. I mean, just like with like every neon sign, every little neon light, every little string of color or like string of, I just feel like they were doing, I mean, like even like literally look at like in the literal preview picture, like all of that, like what is that? Like what's the use for that?
Yeah, it was a little much. But I feel like the biggest issue with this movie is the continuity, because there was none.
Right.
For starters, like the one thing I was trying to maybe find an explanation the second time we saw it, like was the whole lab situation where, so like he's on the run and he runs into Martine.
Right.
And he's like, hey, I need you to go to the lab, give me some stuff.
Right.
Which first off, that was during the day. That was like presumably in the morning.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't go to the lab until at night.
Right.
So what was she doing all day?
She was just vibing.
I need to know. Secondly, Morbius is like, I gotta go find these guys. I'm up to something. And like, he sneaks in. He doesn't even sneak. He just walks into like a lab where they're making printing counterfeit money. Dollars, and he breaks their hand. And they leave, and like he needs the lab for something, I guess. But I don't know why.
Well, see, I don't know, because they literally didn't do anything in that lab. Like, it was a place to hide.
I mean, like,
sure.
He was obviously working on something. Like, he was, like, tearing stuff apart and making stuff. But I guess,
don't touch on that.
I guess he was making, like, the death anti-serum thing. But the problem is
oh, that's right.
When Martine goes to, like, the Horizon Lab, which I will say, I was really excited to see Horizon Labs on the screen for the first time. She goes there, and the first time, like, there's a caution tape. But then literally, the FBI breaks to her house, and then like they're still in that weird underground lab.
Right.
The next scene, they're back in the Horizon Lab and there's like, so I was the Horizon Lab off limits? What was going on?
I don't know. I mean, like honestly, I just figured like he was still on the run. Like she could still be out and out and about.
But they both went back to the Horizon Lab after they were both on the.
Well, I think it was one of those things like, if anyone stops them, like they'll get through them. Really, because like he was getting like the last like the poison, and then was like gonna go off and like end it all. So like I don't think he really cared. Like
I guess, but then like why do they have to go back? There was zero like continuity. Like 100%. There was no explanation for anything happening. The other issue was like Matt Smith's motivations. Like I couldn't. I mean, just so like the first 5 minutes is a flash forward. Yeah. We open with a flash forward, and then we go to a flashback, and then we go to present day, but it's also kind of a flashback, and then we flash forward. Like it was all over the place. And if you're going to use titles, like use them, but instead, like they would only use them every like once in a while for random stuff.
Right.
I don't understand why we had to see Morbius and Milo as kids. Like,
I think the only reason that made sense to me, I was thinking about this, literally the name change.
Okay,
literally the sole reason for his name. Like, that's the only thing I could pull from that. And then maybe just
Morbius
see
is
him,
a
like,
dick.
the little,
like
100%.
This poor kid shows up and he's like, "Hi, my name is Lucian," and he's like, "You're Milo." I don't care. And then everyone just calls him Milo.
Like, this man, like, did he legally change his name? Like, he grew up 30 plus years down the road. I don't even know how old they were supposed to be.
Everyone's still calling him Milo. And then, like,
everyone.
And then at the end of the movie, like, you know, Morbius, like, kills him. Like, Lucian, like, as if it's supposed to be some, like, full circle moment. Like, no, like, you never gave him a chance to, like.
No, ever.
I mean,
to be fair, homeboy, like, ran with, like I said, like, he, like, changed his name to Milo. Like, he was cool with it. Like, I don't think he cared.
I guess. Also, like, who is Milo? Like, why does he have all this money?
That's what I was like. Because, one, why is Morbius using his money? This man has every award in the book. I mean, he didn't accept them all, but, like, he made something better than, like, he made artificial blood. You telling me this man has no money to fund his own research?
Right.
He's pulling Milo's money.
I mean, I would assume. I don't know how this actually works in the real world, but I would feel like if Milo was funding that project, then most of the profits would probably go
a large chunk,
and then Morbius maybe just took his cut and put it into, I don't know.
And that could have been. And he's probably, again, just trying to keep him in the loop because, I mean, he was trying to find a cure for the both of them. It's not like he was trying to just do this for himself and anything, but, and I think, like, his main motivations, his motives for, like, kind of losing his mind is just like he's been waiting his whole life for that, and then Morbius was like, no, don't do it, out of, like, good reason, but, like even, like, Alessandra was like, she's like, how would that man, like, go that far off the edge? And I was like, imagine, like, knowing that there's a cure. Like, obviously he doesn't know, but also that's the thing too. I get it was kind of illegal. Okay, I get they did it in secret. Like, Morbius did all of his research as, like, the whole gene experiment, all that was, like, risky to do. But bro, tell someone. Like, one, it worked. Mark that. Trademark the crap out of that. Like, do something with it. Like, here's what I'm saying. Like, every time he's like, I'm gonna get hungry. I'm gonna beat someone up. I'm gonna fight. Be like, I'm kind of a bat now and I need blood. Like, I need help. Like, help me. Like, no one would have, like, literally, like, well, I don't think the world would have freaked out. Like, superheroes are a thing. That's a thing.
The problem was, like, he didn't control it. I think, and again, I feel like this is a prime. What you're explaining is the show and not tell. Like, they just told us how he felt, but then they never showed us how he felt, or, like, they never, like, played with the idea. I feel like that would have been such an interesting movie, a much more interesting movie than what we got, where like he's trying to grapple with the fact of, like, is this can I be a hero? Am I automatically a monster? Like, how can I control this? Like, that would have been such an interesting idea to explore, and that's where I thought they were going to go with this movie, because if I were making a Morbius movie, like, that's what I would have done, and I feel like that they turned that into a quick, like, plot point as opposed to that being the entire plot. I don't know. I think that was a major mistake. Just to touch on that first comment about, you know, Matt Smith going off the edge. Like, I feel like that was the problem. Like, I'm trying to justify, like, the first, like, flashback scene as his, like, origin story where he's getting beat up by kids for no reason. Like, that was just laughably bad. Like,
oh, it was horrible.
I was trying so hard not to laugh, like, during the whole, because I was like, this is not how that worked. Like,
kids don't do that.
Kids don't care. Like,
I mean, we're in America, maybe, but
kids are mean, but, like, that's not how that works. But secondly, like, but then
also, what, like, second, third graders are just, like, vibing in an alley, like, literally after school, you're just, like, hanging out 3, 4 years. You're like, oh, this cripple, let me beat the like, no. I feel like that first flashback scene just didn't need to be there because that was never touched on again, and, like, I couldn't tell if Matt Smith was mad at Morbius or for not helping him, or if, well, I kind of, like, you know, he touched on, like, the point where he's like, I don't know you, like, this isn't you or whatever. He's like you made me, like, he's like, I looked up to you my whole life. Like, he's like, I am like you, basically, kind of a thing. Like I don't think he was ever mad at him. I just think he wanted to be him, and now that he's
and he was always like, I want to show Morbius, like, the potential, what he can be. It's, I don't know. It was just, he had no motivation, and I don't know. I can't even form thoughts. Like, I can't give explanations because I don't think the writers had any. He was Matt Smith was just kind of there they needed a bad guy.
Yeah.
They could have made Morbius a bad guy.
To be fair, like, unless I just watched every trailer with my eyes closed, I just remember Matt Smith being shown as like, he was as the Milo, as like the like close, like friend brother
one
relationship.
Shot of him
in the trailer. Right.
It's in the subway, where in the actual movie, he's like a vampire.
Right. But it just shows him normal, right? Yes. I went in this movie and I was like, oh, he's got like a literal role. Like he's got like
Matt Smith is like
he's actually in this movie. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise because I'm a major Doctor Who nerd and like
it's kind of fun to actually see him act in that.
I thought Matt Smith did a good job. Like he's a good actor and like I think he worked well with what he had.
For sure. And to be fair, honestly, like same with Jared Leto. Like
same with Jared Leto.
Like it wasn't his best role. I mean,
the question I have to ask though is like, why Jared Leto?
Yeah.
For a role like this, I feel like literally anyone could have played him. You know, like there was I don't know
who I would have cast though, honestly. Like ever seeing like that?
Literally anyone. And you know, back to like kind of the point of like, here's how you don't establish a universe. Look at the MCU. I mean, RDJ had some credits under his belt, but he was also like a felon.
Yeah.
Marvel took a risk on him, and it was the best decision they ever made.
Yeah.
Chris Evans had some stuff, but he wasn't huge.
Right.
Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, totally unknown.
Yeah.
Like, take some risks on people who we've never seen before, especially in a movie like this that is already just falling apart.
Right.
And maybe that's why they cast Jared Leto was
it's a good name.
They know it's not like a good movie, but like, hey, guess what? Jared Leto takes his shirt off in this movie. Like,
man was shredded. Like, yeah,
he was. But yeah, can we talk about the FBI agents for a second?
That was so annoying.
It was like a weird, like good cop, bad cop. And I will say, I applaud the writers for actually like not making them idiots. Like they looked at the details and they said, okay, like we know what's going on here. Like immediately they were like, all right, it was Morbius. He was doing some vampire experiment and now he's like, I'll give him credit for that. The problem is like they had no purpose in this movie other than to like fill time.
Right.
And
I mean, they literally asked questions. That's all they did.
They didn't even like cause any problems other than like stalking Martine to see where she would go. And she avoided them with no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why they felt the need to have them there.
Yeah.
I don't know. They maybe took up 10, 15 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
If we got rid of them, we could have had so much more developing Morbius and Milo's relationship. Because to be honest, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm told that they're friends, but I want you to show me that. Like, they're lifetime friends supposedly, but like the entire movie, they don't hate each other, but they don't understand each other at all. Like they're fighting the entire time. And I have,
and that's like, cause like a main thing is like he was, you know, arguing like, cause he was really like, oh, like I've had real blood. Like you don't know the power that you can get on this, but also like he never had blue blood. He never had the fake blood. Like, how does he know it's any different? Like he was like, dude, you just got to try the red stuff. He's like, do the red, like do real blood. Like, why wouldn't he be like, dude, this is the same thing. Like do the blue blood. And then just like obviously I know you could like, they probably feel different, but like also like, I was just like, I feel like they just, the communication between the two of them was terrible because it wasn't like hey, I want to literally take all your powers away. It's just like, hey, like we need to figure this out. And I mean, at one point he was like, hey, like let's just chill on this stuff while we figure things out. But I don't know. Like I just, their relationship was not.
It didn't feel like there was a relationship.
Yeah. It just felt like they were acquaintances. Like they were partners on this. Like it felt like they were like business partners, not like supposed to be like friends or like have this like brother seeming like relationship. Like,
I don't know. I think it would have been interesting if, you know, to show like their relationship and everything.
Right.
By seeing them in the lab and working together. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda does the greatest job at like showing these relationships like very quickly. Like in The Heights, in the opening number, when we're introduced to Benny, Usnavi's best friend, like the lines go back and like they cut each other off and like it's very obvious immediately that like they have a really tight relationship and they're really close. And like they kind of like joked around a little bit at the beginning and then they went on a weird walk awkwardly.
Like I don't even know if that was like a kind of like a gag joke, like hey, like let's go take a walk. Oh wait, we can't. Like kind of like I don't know. I was literally like, what was the point of that? Especially because, like, yeah, they went to this little park, but he was just like, I'm close. I need money. Why'd y'all walk? Like, why did you all leave the house for that?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even show anything else going in the background. Like, dude, you went to a park.
Like, I would like to see something where maybe Milo also he's not as talented. That's what I want to see. I want to see Milo working in the lab.
Well, clearly he did something to make his money. That's why I'm like, was he like an actor? Did he come up with like an app or something? Like, homeboy was in a big penthouse. He had
hired
clothes,
Russian bodyguards.
Yes. He had homeboy as his personal doctor, like nurse guy, like coming in every day.
I would like to see, like, give Milo something to do. Because to be honest, he didn't have anything to do. That's why he was the way he was. But, like, give him something to do. Like, have him help Morbius in the lab and show that they're close and, they're do like a Walt and Jesse from Breaking Bad kind of situation where, like, you're showing them, like, going back and forth and they have their jobs. Show that they have that relationship that's been lasting a while. And then throw in, like, little sneaks of Morbius getting all the credit. Like, you can have the whole, he dissed the queen or whatever. And then Matt Smith has a quick line of, oh, like, I would have taken it or something. Like, show that there's a little bit of resentment from Milo.
The only resentment that I felt was like when he was like, it was like Morbius, like Michael was your favorite, like, kid, even though they weren't even, that wasn't even their dad, for one. That was literally a nurse.
It was like a father figure.
For sure. Like, I totally understand that. But also, like, did these boys even have parents? Were they, like, straight up orphaned? Like, I don't even know. Like,
that's another.
It just, their whole story, there was so much lacking, man. Like,
Yeah, so, I mean, I would like to see, like, there be tension in that relationship. And then that's kind of where at the end of the day, like, they do love each other and they do care about each other. But, like, Milo wants to be in the spotlight or, Milo wants to be like Morbius or whatever.
Right.
But he flies too close to the sun. I also think it would have been really interesting to, play with the whole cure or curse thing. Give us more time of Morbius being a doctor. Because that's his whole thing is that he's a doctor, but, like, he has to kill people and, like, suck their blood to survive. And we saw a little bit of him being a doctor for some girl that was totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
And during scenes that did nothing to further the plot or anything. I would have liked to see more of him being a doctor, maybe put him in situations where he has to, like, break some rules or he'll do whatever it takes to save this person.
Right.
And then when he discovers the cure, he's like, no, Milo, like, I can't do this. Milo pulls the, oh, you want me to die card. And so Morbius says, all right, well, he tries to justify that decision and says, okay, I'll give this to you, but you have to help me figure out how to do it. And then Milo goes off the rails. Yeah. That would have given some sort of conflict,
right?
Within Morbius, like, just to look inside and say, okay, like, who am I still a good person? Like, I'm saving him, but I'm also, like, gonna make things worse potentially. Like, this is a curse. I don't like this. I can't control it. I wish we had more of that because I feel like there were no consequences for Morbius other than, like, losing. He ended up losing Milo in the end, but, like, I didn't feel that he really cared.
Right.
He kind of just flew off, and we got a scary look at his face, and that was about it. So I would have liked to see a little more emotion, and literally anything to give these characters the drive to do what they do.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie. One character that did not have any drive, was Martine. I'm not really sure. I feel like the writers thought they needed to have a love interest of some sort, and
feminism, lady doctor.
They just that whole scene when he, like, walks in and is like, "Oh, you're not the doctor," and I was like, "Okay, come on, let's
like, what
I get what you're doing. That's cool. Let's just move on. Like, I don't need 90 seconds, 2 minutes of, like, her being, like, this badass woman, like
good for her, but
it's fine. She's a doctor. Like, you made, like, I feel like where a lot of, like, studios and things are missing the mark with the whole, equal rights and feminism thing is, like, you don't make points about it. Just, they don't want you to make a whole big deal about women being a scientist. Like, just have scientists be women. Or like,
and that's why I think, like, they were doing totally fine. Like, as her, like, in the lab, you could tell, like, no, she's just not a nurse.
Yeah, like, that was fine. And I mean, I don't know. I'm a straight male. Like, what do I have to say about this? But, like, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Like, just, I feel like it's more empowering to just have them be there doing those roles because that's normal and that's how it is, as opposed to
like pointing it out, making it
let's put all of these female Avengers together for no reason, and they're all going to charge and help the one Avenger who doesn't need help in the situation. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, but I feel like they wanted to make her love interest, and it just, I don't know. I guess it kind of worked. I just feel like they didn't know what to do with her. Like, was she a plot device? Was she supposed to be like a damsel in distress? Like,
see, I think they towards the end, yeah. I mean, they used it because I mean, I don't know, yeah. And
maybe I just misinterpreted it, but like I was watching for this a second time, like hoping for some sort of explanation. But in that like that last kind of sequence with her, Matt Smith bites her and condemns her to death, like she's dying, right? And I guess
why did he bit her? Didn't he just like poke
no, he definitely bit her because that's why like she like was on the ground and then Morbius showed up and she was dying. That was the whole point. And then she was like, at least make it worth it. And then Morbius sucked her blood, drank the red so he could go fight. Even though he didn't even like hit a punch, he just called a bunch of bats to do the work for him. And he did some like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, he literally was like charging, boom, and I was like, what was that? I literally was like, that was trash.
But like, so here's my question: is Morbius drained all of her blood, effectively killing her? I thought that was the whole point, and it was supposed to be some emotional thing that he just kind of quickly
really got over real quick.
Yeah. But then I guess she's alive and she's a vampire now.
Which what I'm wondering is, did she take one of the, because there was always three. He took one and there's 2 vials. So then Homeboy took one, Milo took one, and then there was always one left.
No, I think it was Milo bit her and
he bit her but didn't drain her blood.
Yes, because that's how vampires work.
Oh, I know that's how vampires work, but they're not vampires. Like,
but the problem is like if she drained all of her blood, it like, I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter, but like I feel like if you're dead, can you still turn into a vampire?
Do vampires have blood?
Is she like a zombie vampire?
Like a zombie, yeah. Like she's the undead vampire?
I feel like they didn't know what to do with her and they wanted to like leave some like plot twist thing towards the end, and even though it didn't make any sense, they just kind of went with it.
Yeah.
So in kind of exploring this idea of how not to establish a multiverse, or a Spider-Verse in this case, we've talked about a lot of like the things that they did wrong. Was there anything that they did right? Even just like the tiniest little,
except I don't know.
You don't know?
No, like there was nothing that I watched that I was just like, oh, okay, that was cool. I mean, like I know you kind of know like the hallway scene, like for like jump scare for like scary feeling purposes, like sure, but I don't know how much, if there was anything that was outstanding or that really was.
I think they did. Setting. I mean, they did. They hit all the marks with like, oh, we haven't seen something like this in San Francisco, or
what happened in San Francisco? Like I pulled a big stupid. Like was that Venom? Okay. I wasn't sure because I was like, what in that universe would have like taken place?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where Let There Be Carnage took place, right?
I'm pretty sure. I think he just lives in. I kind
of wiped that movie from my brain. Which fun fact? Did you know that there's a scene in Let There Be Carnage where Tom Hardy's like on a clock tower, like hiding. It's towards the end, and there's like helicopters and stuff in the background. In the edit, it seemed like the helicopter's like looking for him or whatever. Turns out they were actually filming. I don't remember what movie it was. There was another movie that was filming like on the other side of the city, and they had helicopters, and so they just took advantage of it, and they just left the helicopters there and added it in.
I mean, it makes sense.
Oh, I can't remember. I want to say like Fast and the Furious, but that doesn't make any sense. It was something like that.
Yeah,
like some weird action
movie.
Yeah, that was filming in the same spot.
Nice.
I feel like they did what all the Sony movies do, and they just very lazily did it. Like even like with the No Way Home post-credit scene of like, the tiny little bit of the Venom symbiote being left behind. Like that is the laziest way to introduce such an iconic villain and an iconic storyline. Just like,
which like in a sense, like sure that would make sense. Like if obviously they're going to introduce like, I mean, it was like an okay way to introduce it, but also does that mean that there's no Venoms like on that universe, like on like that multiverse on that Earth 616, whatever Earth Tom Holland Avengers is on?
I mean, Venom,
because it already seems like Venom
recognized Spider-Man too.
So he's like multiversal already. So that's why I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I just feel like their execution was really lazy again. Yeah. So it was kind of on par, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's any hope, for them to come back? And I'm not saying that they're going to be an MCU because it's too late for that, I think. Yeah. Just in terms of...
And honestly, like, to be fair, like, I don't understand why try? Like, why try and do your own, like, Sonyverse, like I get, because you own Spider-Man's right. It's like, cool, you've made that very clear.
They have to keep making movies.
Right. But like...
You realize that Spider-Man is the most profitable IP of all time.
For sure.
Any medium.
Yes. Yeah. But like, also, like, I don't understand, like, what their deal is, like do the 50s, do the little, like... Because, like, it isn't, like, any of the Spider-Man, like Far From Home, No Way Home, and Homecoming, like, those were, like Disney and Marvel had, like, 50-50. They both had... Like, Disney had, like, very big input on those movies.
So
that's why they weren't, like, total... Dog water?
No. Not quite. So the way those, it changed throughout the movies, especially for No Way Home is, I don't know, that's the one I feel most confident talking about. If I remember correctly, Sony funded like 80-something%, 70-80%, and then Disney funded the rest. And so in terms of like box office sales and everything, that's how the money's distributed. Really what it was is after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amy Pascal called up Kevin Feige. It was like, hey, so you're doing this MCU stuff. It's really successful. You did the Raimi Spider-Mans. I'm pretty sure Feige was also a producer on the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Really? Oh, that's dope. I didn't know that.
Yeah, just like as a producer.
Yeah.
She was like, hey, like we're friends. Like you've been successful in the past. You're continuing to be successful. Like what can I do to save this? And Feige, being Feige, was like, well, I would like to have Spider-Man in the MCU. He's like, I can help you, but I need to be on board. And the only way for me to be on board is if I'm also working with the MCU, because that's what I do. And she was like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so a few days later, Feige texted her or called her or something, and all he said was, what if Tony Stark made Spider-Man's suit? And then she was like, that's a cool idea, because we haven't, even in the comic books, you haven't really, we've seen like bits and pieces of that. We have the Iron Spider suit and things, but like,
not the relationship they have.
But it was just thinking about, in all the other previous Spider-Verses, like Spider-Man movies, there's no possibility for interaction. And so that's why they kind of moved them over. So Feige is in charge of the MCU as a whole. And so with the Spider-Man movies being a part of the MCU,
they have some input.
Right. So like they're able to throw in Doctor Strange, and that's something that Sony wants to do, because they know that that's going to sell more tickets.
Yeah, it's going to work.
You're going to be able to tell better stories just because you're able to have these characters interact with each other. Right. So Sony still has like the final say in things. I do not think that No Way Home would have happened without Sony. Yeah. I feel like they have been setting up lots of other things.
Honestly. Yeah.
And I think the reason that we got Toby and Andrew in No Way Home was because that's what Sony really wanted. And I think the MCU just adapted to that.
Well, so here's what I'm curious. Like, here's what I'm thinking. Like, say Sony does what they do with these villains. Okay. Obviously, Vulture is now in that universe.
Like, you're saying spoiler now.
Like, if anyone cares.
We're like 40 minutes in.
Yeah. But like he's doesn't look like he's going to be sucked back in an hour from now. Looks like he's already rebuilt his suit. He's in that universe. Obviously, Oscorp was dropped.
In the trailer, but not in the movie.
In the trailer, not in the movie. Correct. But like, you think they'll like Andrew Garfield will get his third Spider-Man as being the Spider-Man that they are trying to stop? Like Tom Holland he's MCU Spider-Man.
I had this discussion with somebody.
Disney doesn't touch that.
I love Andrew Garfield. Disney. I think he's an amazing Spider-Man who was just given really, really bad movies.
For sure. You don't want to come back? Here's
the problem. In those movies, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is still in high school. And at the time, Andrew Garfield is pretty old. Andrew Garfield is currently in his 40s. I'm sorry, he cannot play Spider-Man anymore. It's just...
I'm cool with that. If he came back, I feel like he wouldn't disappoint, but it wouldn't be the best choice that they could make.
And I think it worked in No Way Home just because he's hardly in it, and when he is, he doesn't have his mask on.
Exactly.
There's stuff you can do to de-age a little bit.
Exactly.
That's fine. Let's just leave it out. I think it would be, one idea I had was Sam Raimi's initial plan for Spider-Man 4 was to have the Vulture. So I think it could be interesting if they just kind of put this in the Raimi universe. And when they were able to kind of like do a real deep cut to like, oh yeah, originally this was going to be a Vulture movie. What if we kept it that way? So, I mean, Sony's obviously like, building up their own Spider-Verse.
Right.
So we have Venom, we have Morbius, we have a Madam Web movie coming. There's been rumors of a Black Cat movie.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter is getting a movie. Do you think that Sony has a chance to maybe not entirely redeem themselves, but do you think like they have an opportunity? I mean, they do have an opportunity, but like, do you think that they are going to be able to take a lot of the criticisms that they've been getting even from Venom? Like the Venom movies have not been
the best,
greatly loved. Do you think that Sony's going to take these, do you think they're ever going to learn from their mistakes and they're going to try and help establish this Sony SpiderVerse better going forward?
I think if they were going to, there's a chance they definitely already should have. I think they definitely could still do it. I think if they wanted to, especially just after the kind of not failure, but like disappointment of like the Venom movies, and like you could tell they don't do their best work by themselves, kind of idea. Even with Morbius, get help, like reach out to Disney, reach out to Feige. Like I'm not saying Feige should have help.
They already have though, but
I know they have, but like they could. I feel like they could have branched out, because I feel like these movies are like where they're like, yeah, we did Spider-Man, like that was Spider-Man, but like this is our, like I feel like these are like they want a big one, kind of like DC. DC's pumping out movies. They're kind of all terrible. Yeah, Wonder Woman did great, and they're like, yeah, we actually got a hold of this. No, you didn't. Wonder Woman 2 sucked. Aquaman sucked. Everything after that has sucked so far, except for the Batman. Like that's why that like I kind of view Sony's movie like structure when they do their movies kind of like DC. Like you'll have a good one every once in a while, but it's not like stop trying. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of tired of like the whole this whole discussion about how only Disney and only like the MCU can be good,
can be successful, right?
And here's the thing is, I just think that some of these properties just need to start following the MCU's example. Even if it is literally a copy and paste, they'll get called out on it. It's fine. But guess what? We're going to get amazing stories with new and fun characters, and you're going to sell just as many tickets.
Right.
You're already getting getting crapped on for the terrible job you're doing. So why don't you just like literally just follow in the exact footsteps?
Yeah.
And I think the Sony SpiderVerse might struggle with that just because it's a very different kind of idea. What do you think about? So Sony's been like really heavily pushing on the villains because they really only have Spider-Man. Like that's kind of what they're pushing with. So they're really playing with villains.
They're really,
Do you want to see more heroes in this Sony SpiderVerse, or are there any other like? Or I'll ask that later. But like, who else would you want to see show up in this universe?
See, I don't, because like, and I know, like I said, you don't want to like let Disney do their thing, like let Sony do their thing, but like, I don't want Sony to F up another hero that we could potentially see Disney do right.
Well, what if we see them both?
I mean, I think it'd be fine. I mean, like, in the end, it really kind of breaks down to who owns what character and rights and limits. Honestly, I don't. I think I probably used to know, but I don't know really how much what Sony owns versus what other character. I mean, like, if they did, I think they could. I think it would be good if they did like step away from Spider-Man, just like that whole Spider-Man like character, and like do something, like do superhero. Sure, like I don't think they'd have any issues with it. But
I think part of the problem is their branding too is. They call it the Sony Spider-Man movie universe or something.
Yeah.
Like
it's
long and ridiculous like that.
Branding. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like they're probably going to have to continue using villains of some sort.
Yeah.
And they're going to very quickly run out of like anti-villains. Like you've used Venom, use Morbius.
Right.
Craven, sure, I could see how that might work.
Yeah.
I think Black Cat would be a really great.
I think that would just be a great just solo movie itself. Like, yeah, like don't even
You can make a really great Felicia Harvey movie.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot there to work with.
So much stuff to work with. I think it'll.
Do you think that
it'll,
they'll do a Sinister Six movie like specifically, or do you think that they might? Because one of the things I thought was interesting about the post-credit scenes was that Vulture says, "I think we could do some good." Do you think they're going to try to do some sort of like reverse Sinister Six in this universe?
That's what I was about to. The only thing I would think reverse setting is they would have 6 guys. They would all go after Spider-Man. Spider-Man would kind of beat them up. They'll hit some realization like, why are we fighting this kid? Like, why are we fighting Spider? And they'll kind of end up like at the end of like No Way Home, where like you have like Doc Ock kind of turned around. Like I feel like it would be kind of like a villain on villain kind of thing where like, it's like, again, some of them are anti-heroes. Like I feel like Venom would probably be like, like I don't do whatever. Like Tom Hardy will just be like, yeah, like why are we? Yeah, like I don't care like who I'm fighting. Just like someone like, I don't know. Because like the 6 of them like Morbius has never met Spider-Man. Venom has never met Spider-Man. I mean, Venom has. Presumably. Tom Hardy. Yeah, like person to person as far as on screen, they have no like beef. They have no correlation.
I think it would. Here's like my dream. I really like Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man run, and I think if they did do this, I would call it lazy again, but I would really like to see that run ends with the death of Spider-Man, and so it's a tragic story. Like Spider-Man, it takes place just over a year, the whole run, and so he's a 15-year-old kid. He's learning to use his powers. He's really reckless, and so Captain America pulls him aside, like, "Hey, dude, like, I'm gonna train you. Like, you're reckless. You don't care who gets hurt. You're only worried about yourself. You're gonna get yourself killed." And then he has to run off and deal with some stuff going on. And Spider-Man wants to go help, but he can't. And then he gets a call from MJ that Norman Osborn's broken out of prison, and he knows all their identities. He's gonna go kill them. So he has to make a decision, like, do I help Captain America or do I go figure out what's going on with Green Goblin? So he gets Aunt May and Gwen out of their house, and he rushes over to go help Cap. And when he does, he notices there's a sniper who's about to shoot Cap. So he pushes Cap out of the side, takes a bullet to the side. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn puts together Sinister Six, like just gets a bunch of villains who hate Spider-Man. He's like, "Hey, let's go take him out once and for all." Right. And so like it's this really cool moment where Spider-Man is like, I mean, he's already down. He wakes up like hours later. Everyone has left him like bleeding out to death, and like he has this sniper bullet in his hip, and like he's like trying to swing, and he's just pulling, like he's doing everything he possibly can. Yeah. And he ends up like defeating the Sinister Six, and he does one final blow to the Green Goblin, but because he's a kid and he wasn't thinking, like he throws a gas truck on Goblin and kills him. Problem is this version's Green Goblin, his whole thing is like he's on fire, and so the gas truck blows up, and that ends up killing him. So like it's a tragic story. Yeah. But with that, Miles Morales got his powers, and he saw this happen, and that's whenever Miles Morales decided to become Spider-Man. So I think it'd be cool just to see that story, because it's a really great story. Would be so good. And use the characters from the Sony SpiderVerse, right? But then maybe even use that as a way. Just kind of be like, hey, this is the Ultimate Universe, and then have Miles Morales, that be your introduction to Miles Morales, and you can film in the MCU. Yeah. Do whatever. Which I'm excited to see. I think what will happen realistically is Tom Holland has 3 more Spider-Man movies. I think those 3 more are going to be Miles Morales movies, and they're going to do more of a Spider-Man PS4 approach. That'd be so cool. Where Tom Holland mentors him. But anyway, that's a little off topic. So overall, like, you have any final thoughts on Morbius and what they're doing wrong, or are there any hopes for the future of the Sony Spider-Verse? There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say for Sony. That's what they need to do. All right. Fair enough. I mean, I think they have... I think Amy Pascal has tried, and I think and Disney's going to be stubborn. Out. It kind of worked out. And yeah, Disney is stubborn in some cases, but there's other good directors that they've never used. Like, it's not... Yeah. I don't know. I think Sony... Yeah, I think Sony could do some stuff. I don't even think they need to ask for help. I think they just need to steal like an artist.
Yeah.
This felt like an early 2000s superhero movie. Like this felt like the Ben Affleck Daredevil or like the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Like this just, they reverted back to like what used to work. It's like they haven't seen an MCU movie before or just a modern superhero movie in general. Yeah. I just want them to look at what's been like, look at where things are trending.
Look at what works.
Look at what's working and copy it.
Yeah.
Even if it's literally the exact same story. Like,
because here's the thing, even if you do right with these characters that you have access to and that you're using, no one's gonna blame you for a copy and paste. No one's gonna. I
mean, you're gonna get called out on it, but I would much rather get called out on it and sell tickets and have people enjoy my movie than get called out on my movie being crap and not selling tickets.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah, I would love to see them just take what's working and just hit copy paste, and try something new.
Right.
Branch out, try different directors, try unknown actors. I mean, Tom Hardy and Jared Leto are massive actors, and I feel like when you feel the need to hire really, really well-known actors, you need that's kind of an early sign that. Your script needs a little more work or your play needs more work. So I would really, I'm a massive Spider-Man fan. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I really hope that they take some time and they don't rush out like a story, that they just, they take their time and they tell a good story. I even have to wait 5 years. I want something that I can actually walk out of and be happy that I saw, as opposed to asking myself, wow, like I bought movie tickets to this movie twice and I severely regret it.
That would be nice. That would be a nice pace of change.
So yeah, thank you for joining us today on the Popcorn Hangover. Today we were talking about Morbius and where the Sony SpiderVerse is going wrong. I would encourage you to check us out on social media, and we will talk to you guys next time.